Hi, my name is Simon. I'm from Rotterzwam and welcome to VODcast numero 3 with Ivanka Milenkovic from Eco Fungi in Belgrade, Serbia. So the first two vodcasts they got lost in cyberspace. The first one I deleted when editing, and the second, what happened with the second? No sound. I recorded it with no sound. So the third podcast finally worked. We finally had a good recording with sound and image and everything. So let's dive right through it. We're going to talk about HEPA filters and good ventilation in mushroom cultivation. It's recording again. I hope it's all going right and that
Don't worry, it will be.
It will be. Yeah, it's the third time we try, so it should be.
If I could succeed to record my Zoom lessons, so trust me, you will definitely succeed as well.
Okay, welcome everybody to this interview I'm doing with Ivanka Milenkovic from Serbia. She is in Belgrade with her mushroom company System Eco Fungi. And my name is Simon. I'm from Rotterzwam and we are in Rotterdam. And we actually planned to do a webinar today about why you should not invest in HEPA filters, or at least discuss the investment choice between good ventilation and HEPA filters. But we probably posted the announcement a little bit too low or too short in advance. So we had a turn up of very few people, zero. So it's not really a webinar, but it's just a conversation that I'm going to have with Ivanka. So we had the time reserved in our calendar a long time ago. So we had the time, and we're going to have a nice conversation with each other. Ivanka, what do you think?
Yeah, of course, it is always nice to talk about the mushroom. You know that I really enjoy to share, to talk with you, because also I think that I also have a lot to learn from Rotterzwam and you and all people who start to do this urban farming. So maybe if somebody listen this our conversation later on, we'll learn also something, but definitely we will enjoy, I think, Simon, like always when we have a conversation about our work.
Yes, definitely. And just when we started to prepare this session, we discussed a little bit about the Mushroom Learning Network, how it formed, and who is the target audience for that. So, what is the ideal member for it? Um, uh, can you share a little bit from the beginning of the Mushroom Learning Network, how that started, and then as a sort of introduction to this session?
Yeah, MLN started in 2014 in November in the on the place which today is named Blue City, and in that time it was just a closed, very ugly swimming pool with one fantastic light point inside, and that light point was something which today we know like a Rotterzwam. And in that time, we came from Belgium with some group of people, organized, we internally organized everything. And the purpose of that first conference, which lasted, or not conference, but that nice happening, if I may say so, was that we share that in that moment I had been a person to share, because there was a very few colleagues with me who could share something. But the purpose was that we start sharing, all our experience, knowledge, and try to help people to avoid mistakes. And those mistakes sometimes are very painful, sometimes are very dangerous, sometimes are really
Costly.
non costly, yeah, on the first place. And during that weekend in November 2014, we really learned a lot. And today it's very nice that through our network we can see the names which I met in that time, first time, and I suppose that you also had met those people almost first time in that. So MLN started on November 2014 in order to help mushroom entrepreneurs and the people who want to make some small business out of mainly urban farming mushrooms. So in today, I will be very glad that our group on Facebook, because for 6 years really it's growing, that we start to focus again. Of course, we appreciate very much all the people who are interested for the mushroom, who are looking for some solution. But the main purpose of the group was to help people to make the business. And that's also what you, Simon, and me still 6 or even 7 years later, we try to do.
Yeah.
So that is the purpose of MLN, to
Yeah.
support the mushroom entrepreneurs.
Yeah, indeed. It's a sort of it grew organically. It's a sort of something that we started in Rotterdam. It was a call by the Blue Economy Network to share more. It's an maybe by this morning I published a new blog about our business model and how it gradually developed into a system of multiple cash flows. And I also described that when we began, so we're not the first to grow mushrooms on coffee grounds. I mean, it has been done all over the world, and it's actually a flagship example business case from the Blue Economy, from the book by Günther Pauli. So we were not the first, but in his book, Günther describes that you can grow mushrooms on coffee grounds, but he doesn't say how you can do it. So we cursed him in the beginning many occasions in the basement. Say, why can't he not give us the recipe? But gradually, while looking into it, we find also that it's not something you should copy and paste, because Blue Economy is all about using local circumstances, using what is locally available to grow mushrooms or to run your business. And that's also one of the reasons, Ivanka, why you are not growing mushrooms on coffee grounds,
Yeah.
because you're not in a city environment, and people drink coffee in a different way in
Yeah.
Serbia than they do in the Netherlands.
Yes, of course. And it is also, it is very good point, Simon. And I will, from during last, in fact, just to clarify, growing mushroom on the coffee ground and coffee waste was originally idea of our dear Professor C.T. Chang, who is the god of our science, to be very honest. However, that was just a very symbolic idea. But on 2008 in Turin, Professor Gino Bastignano, who, I'm sorry, I never pronounce his family name on the correct way, and he knows that, but we know who is he. He was the lead project about the systemic design supported by Lavazza. And he wanted to present something very symbolic. And he asked me and his, in that time, assistant, today the chief of department in the Turin University for Systemic Design, Sylvia, to make the mushroom for this and that day, this and that year, just in order to present. So this more like symbol. That's how everything started. And what I want to say, people are very often coming here and believe that it is blue economy if you grow mushroom on the coffee waste. And very often they are coming here at my place and become extremely disappointed because we cannot use the mushroom coffee waste at all in our production. First, we are on balcony and we drink a turkey coffee, which is not suitable. Second, waste after espresso can be coffee making, can be used, but we are big. And for my production, it could be necessary to collect all the coffee waste out of all cafes from Belgrade, which is logistically difficult.
Yeah.
So the blue economy, and this is Simon, what also we need to share, it is exactly, is to find the proper raw material in the cycle of the 30 kilometers in your surrounding. It can be coffee waste because it is the urban waste, most suitable urban waste, but also all source of the cellulose. And blue economy is low investment and high quality.
Yeah.
And if you allowed me if you allowed me, this is the main point of our story: low investment and high quality. And low investment means a clever investment.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah, and also the example of the project of Cristiana Gardicchiotti in Greece, who they're using the olive clippings as a source of cellulose and a source for the substrate. So that is a really nice example of things that are locally available. And when we start to go back to that first MLN session, when we started farming in 2013, May 2013, when we entered the former swimming pool, we had to figure out how it works. And because we were not the first, we were starting to call to people and ask them if they would share some of their insights. But most of the response was about, oh,
Like, yeah.
I also read that book, and it took me 10 years, oh, no, not 10 years, but 1 year to figure out how it works. And I wanted to keep my head start at the competition. So that's when we decided we wanted to do it different. And then we were glad to find you because you were already about sharing. Over the past 7 years, we have gradually built that MLN, that Mushroom Learning Network, for entrepreneurs who want to make a small business out of it. Several things have come out of it. We had, I think, 5 sessions. One in Copenhagen also with Beyond Coffee. We still have to go once to Hut und Stiel in Austria. We were in Paris and in Brussels once. A lot of
And two
interesting
times
visits.
in Rotterzwam, in Rotterdam. The 2008, the first 18,
Mm-hmm.
I think, in 18 in November, with the Living University. Before did we have a MLN in Ven?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was also very
Two,
nice. So we were
yes.
in Rotterdam. We were twice in Rotterdam, and you also had a book that you published, and that is available online. So there's a lot of material that we've been sharing over the last few years, and it's all aimed at the small entrepreneur, the small mushroom farmer in an urban or semi-urban environment. All
Yes.
right, so that is for the introduction. Because we did the long introduction, we're going to skip the personal introduction. We're not going to in depth about your decade of mushroom experience.
In
Nor
some
mine.
age, it is not. In some age, it is not very popular to mention several of the cases.
So we're gonna have a discussion about this ventilation
Yeah.
system, and I'll just want to share the screen for now, and then give the word to you, the floor to you, I should say. Hey, this is. Can you see my screen now?
I see. Yes.
This is the Zoom invitation. Let me go to this. Okay, you see the blog of the mushroom
Yes,
cultivation? Okay,
yes,
so this is the blog at mushroom cultivation, the blog section. And if you see here also the latest blog we posted this morning. But if you scroll down and you click on the tag mushroom growing room designs, then you find the related articles about that. And if you scroll down, you find here the climate design. This is this block.
yeah,
And if you double click on the image, then this is the image that we
yeah,
drew based on what you shared with us during that first MLN session. So maybe you could talk us a little bit through this design and what is important
yeah,
to see here.
yeah. Simon, and all the people who had been in somehow in communication with us here know that for me, the main purpose of our lessons, webinars, seminars, training, school, and everything is that people understand what they are growing and how they are growing. And that is the first. Second, the purpose is that we remind the people that growing mushroom, and that is the reason why growing mushroom like technology is very useful in that blue economy, if you allowed me to say, in marketing and promotion, because it is exactly copy paste of the natural cycle. Technology of growing mushroom generally is exactly the copy of the natural cycle and natural process in the nature. Why? What we have, of course, we in under the in our under the conditions of artificial growing, we skip that process from spores to the from spores to the mycelium, because in fact by buying the spawn, buying the mycelium, we buy, in fact, we start from that phase where the written is substrate. Yes, exactly that. So here in on this cycle, there is a mention the spawn. Nature does not know the term of spawn. In nature, spawn, like phase of the mushroom growing, does not, mushroom growing, yeah, cycle does not exist. And that is the reason why we strongly recommend to the people that they purchase the spawn, because by making the spawn by themselves can be nice, can be good, can provide the nice feeling that you are doing everything under your control. But if you make a business out of that, this is the most critical aspect, and we never recommend that segment.
Mhm.
And let me say like this: we recommend that you are doing things only which exist in the nature. In nature, spawn, like a phase in that mushroom life cycle, does not exist. It is artificial thing. And as far as it is artificial thing, and because it is artificial, it is difficult to be realized under our own conditions. So, in that our uh, uh, simulation of the mushroom life cycle under our artificial conditions, we are starting from the spawn, what we buy, and continue up to the harvest. So, this left part of the cycle is in fact something what we are doing in our growing units.
Okay.
And okay, and in order to simulate that natural conditions, we have to ask ourselves where we found the mushroom in the nature. We are going to find the mushroom, the fruit body in the nature, never ever anywhere where the wind is very strong, where the wind is blow very fast. We never can find the mushroom anywhere where the water is very deep. But we when also we found the mushroom after the rain, after the storm, after the temperature changing. So what we need to do is just to simulate the same fantastic conditions what we have in the nature when we are able to find the mushroom.
Mm, yeah.
And those conditions are that we need to have some temperature shock, like after the rain in the forest. Excuse me. We need to have one fantastic changing of the quality of the air, what is also very important. And we do not, it is not allowed to have a wind. So if we translate that in the numbers, it means that we must have 2 meters per second of the air moving inside of the growing unit, but we must have 10, we must to change total volume of the air inside of the growing unit 10 times per 1 hour. We need to have a nice wet atmosphere, and this under such a condition we will have the mushroom. Please take into the consideration, if you have a faster air movement inside of the growing unit, you will never have the mushroom. If you have separate air condition with the ventilation also, because fan is working on one side and air condition is working on the other side. So the ideal scheme and ideal solution for the mushroom growing and small and big growing units is this what we share, which Simon shared now on screen. What does it mean? We have a ventilation system which is consist of the fan is always arranged by capacity, is chosen according the growing unit capacity. So if our growing units on example, 58 cubic meter, on example, it means that our fan has to have capacity of 580 cubic meter per 1 hour. However, we also have to find a solution for the mixing of the air, because remember, in the growing unit you never have a two fans, never ever. It's not allowed to have a ventilation system with two fans. So by one fan we need to do air movement, air mixing inside of the room, and also to provide significant level of the fresh air. How we are doing that? We are doing that by very simple system, which is made by so-called mixing box, where, or you can, no, there is a mixing, Simon, there is a mixing box on the beginning. If I see,
The valve here.
yeah, that is the mixing box.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And by those two damper, you can, if you open one, which is orientated towards outside, and if you close other, which is orientated toward the channel, which is going into the growing unit, you will have 100% of the fresh air from outside.
Yes.
And vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you open this, you get fresh air from the outside.
Yeah.
If you
Yes.
close this or partially close this and open this, then you recirculate the air. And we're not going to really into detail about this now, but it has to do with the different growing phases. Yeah? So the first growing phase.
Yes, of course, and it is very important. But the purpose of our lesson is to show to the people when, how, and where they have to invest the HEPA filters. I will respond on that question. Ask auditorium, had you ever seen HEPA filters or any sort of the filters in the nature? No, there is no HEPA filters.
No.
The secret of the successful growing is this ventilation system where we simulate fantastically natural condition with the fan, which does not move the air faster than 2 meters per second, which has capacity to replace total volume of the air, to change volume of the air 10 times per 1 hour. And if it is possible and if it is necessary, to provide adequate and appropriate temperature of that air.
Yeah.
And because of that, after the ventilation system, we are we have heat exchanger. And to be very clear, it is just exactly equipment appropriate, adequate of the cooler on your car engine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is heat exchanger, and independent of the season, through that heat exchanger, we have hot or cold water. So we have, like we say, 3 at 1: good quality of the air, good speed of the air, and good temperature of the adequate temperature of the air.
Yeah.
And finally, air can pass through humidificator or not. It's depend of the investment capacity, because ultrasonic humidificator can be sometimes and expensive. It's depend of the growing unit and everything.
Yeah, yeah, it is true. The way we designed it, this was based on the conversation. This is an optional thing. What we also recommend here for clarification purposes, we drew it outside of this room. You have here a fruiting room which is insulated, but it is wise to place the whole installation inside of the room, because then you also get, because if you cool the air, the radiator will cool and all the tubing will cool. So it's better to put that inside the room, because then you have the benefit of that a thermic mass of that whole installation also radiating the coolness into the fruiting room. So it's drawn outside here, but we could recommend to place it on the inside. And indeed, as Ivanka mentioned, we choose to put the humidification system outside of the tube, whereas the air is coming through. So we have a separate high pressure humidification system, but we're also looking in a more low-tech solution that we also presented in the first webinar, that due to my massive mistake, I deleted while editing it. This is the third webinar or a session that we have planned. The first one I deleted. The second one I recorded without sound. So please hope that this one will be good, and we can record the sound and we can share it with the people through the YouTube channel later. So Ivanka, you mentioned that the ventilation is very important, that you don't have HEPA filters in the nature, but some filtering of the air can be useful.
Yes.
We especially we are working in an urban environment. If we look at that filter, it's very black and dirty after we did the whole cycle of 6 to 8 weeks. So you can use a sort of regular low cost filter instead of a
Yes.
HEPA filter. That's a big
Yes.
difference
Yes.
between the two, eh?
Yes, of course. A regular, very low cost, and there is I'm sorry, there is a very cheap sort of the filter. Sometimes even sheet of textile just can be placed between two frames and fix in front of the fan. There is a we are not, Ecofungi is not in the urban area. but we, on example, have a serious problem with the poplar tree. And in the springtime, when the poplar tree is flush, then you have all that whitish, we call that cat, but it's all around and really can make a big mess in the for the fan and for the engine and for the process. Also, it is very important, even if you are outside of the city, with the system like this one, you take the in partly air during the flushing time. You take a partly air from the growing unit, and do you permanently have some sort of the recycling,
Mm.
which means that this HEPA or no, this just a filter has to block that some sort of the spores, mites, and everything is coming back into the growing unit. But please, one thing is to prevent mites, insects, some kind of spore, or some kind of dirties, which will make a trouble and for the fan and for the growing unit. That is one. And second is trust that you need to install HEPA and 19 that filters S quality, those S qualities, that those high density filters, very fine filters, in order to avoid to avoid spores on with, let me say like this, uh, mushroom growing units does not need to be sterile.
No.
Mushroom growing units is ordinary growing units, like when you grow chicken, like you grow everything.
Mhm.
And HEPA filters and all sorts of filters, expensive, with the S quality, with the S quality standard, are absolutely not necessary, but it is not clever. It is not good even to be placed.
Yeah, it's something that you use in a laboratory
Yes.
mainly, and maybe if you're producing substrate on a large scale, then it's something that could be helpful. But for your substrate production, you do not use it's. We've been there several times. It's just in the outside environment.
No, 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 no,
No?
no. Had you ever seen that people are coming in the growing unit in scaphandre, like in sterile room? Don't mention this COVID moment, but like in scaphandre, never. So how there is no sense to install HEPA filter for the growing unit from outside and coming in the growing unit just regularly dressed.
But when you are in this, when you produce substrates, just to make this clear, you don't have any
No,
HEPA filters or stuff like that.
no,
It's
no, 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 no. That is just a regular room.
okay. Okay, it's almost in the open. I mean, it's
Almost,
almost, yeah.
almost.
It's a
Yes,
very basic setup, and you produce successfully your own substrate. Okay,
yes,
great.
yes,
So
yes,
indeed, in a laboratory, as mentioned here, where you produce spawn, then it's a place where you need to look into that. And I want to share also, if you check the Rotterzwam YouTube channel, you go to videos. And then you scroll down. We did a video about filters, and it's filter your air when cultivating mushrooms. And there we sort of take you through that whole filter system that we use, and you can see very clearly also the benefits that it has. Just cleaning the outside air, it's dirty on one side and clean on the other side. Just you can go through that that recording if you feel like it, and you can consider subscribing to that channel if you want to be updated on a regular basis on mushroom cultivation questions, business designs, business plans, and those kinds of stuff. Okay. um, I think we pretty much covered the whole HEPA filter and air exchange and ventilating system. One thing that I want to add is that it also depends what kind of ventilator you use. Here in the Netherlands, we call it's a snail house ventilator, slakkenhuisventilator. Those ventilators, they tend to have a lot of trouble with when you use a filter in front of after it loses a lot of their capacity. So we also always recommend to use the tubular ventilations systems and not the snail house ventilators, because they're very susceptible to a pressure loss due to filters. That's why there's also an axial ventilator drawn in that design
Yeah.
that we just shared.
Yeah. And also, just to conclude, when the people, the all about machine learning network is to create to support development of the sustainable mushroom business, mainly for the small mushroom producer. The investment always, and for the big and for the small, has to be very well planned and reasonable. Under our conditions, we promote the model of growing which absolutely simulate the natural process. Under all those conditions, there is no place for the HEPA filters, except if you want to start your own mushroom spawn production, what I personally not recommend,
Yeah.
because there is a million questions. Of course, you can be successful on that, but so to conclude, growing unit has to be equipped adequate, and adequate equipment means clever equipment, not expensive equipment. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna finish the recording and then
Mhm.
talk a little bit more with Ivanka to wrap it up and plan the next session. We will let you know through LinkedIn, the Facebook group, and the Mushroom Cultivation website when we're planning the new session. And hopefully we see you there. So Ivanka, thank you for joining us in the recording, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for all your effort.